Hi there, I'm Dani, spiritualtherapist.com, and my guest today is a senior specialist registered nurse. And I'm telling you, this woman who I'm about to introduce to you is someone that we really owe thanks to. This is the kind of nurse that saves the newborn, the premature, the babies with the heart issues. She's also saved the lives of many adults who've been taken to the ICU. She is the nurse who's such a healer, such a lover of humanity, somebody so blessed with talent and imbues such love. And I'm so proud of her, and I'm proud to call her my friend. ASHELY Lee, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I am so excited and delighted to be here. And, you know, I just want to say we're all healers, right? We're all healers in the way that we present ourselves, bring ourselves forward in the world. And I know, you know, chefs are healers.
Yeah, we've all got
People,
our specialty.
all throughout the world are healers, and you are such a gracious and beautiful healer too. That brings the opportunity for people to really come together, recognize their true nature, recognize themselves, and really know that there's afforded an opportunity to really step in to the love that we are.
Yeah,
and so I appreciate you.
You're welcome. You know, we were just saying before we got on this recording that, like, I've been interviewing all my friends, like my real life friends, and I've got more to go. And it's only been really a couple of people that I've interviewed that I don't know or I didn't know. And it's just so amazing when you look at your life and you look at your friends and you go, oh, you rock, you're so clever, you have a talent. We need to get on an interview so we can help people. There's so many subjects that we all need help with right now. And as I'm bringing on all of my friends with these unique talents, it's like, yep, ASHELY will fit this demographic. And then next week, I'm doing my friend, Dr. Barry, who's an emergency room doctor for animals, because so many animals are dying right now. They're trying to take on their parents' emotions. So it's so perfect how we're just guided to do this. But ASHELY, there's so much about you. We could probably spend 4 years straight talking about all the things that you do. But could you please, to start with, address to the nations around the world how their babies feel and respond when they're in the womb, and how the masculine or the partner of the mother be involved in vitro to start with, please?
Well, you share such a beautiful question. The opportunities that I've had inside the intensive care units have been for those children that have been born, and then those children that have grown into from prematurity to adulthood. And so in another area of my acumen, being an energy healer, and in this instance called a soul whisperer, I think it's called. I call it a little bit of telepathy, or an ability to connect heart to heart, soul to soul, person to person, being to being. And this comes very naturally and organically for me. I didn't realize it as I was becoming a nurse and had spent 32 years in nursing to know that that was happening. I thought everybody spoke to everybody like this. I didn't know that it was rather unique. And so in that area in my practice, where I work with children and families, and that's preconception, during conception, and then after conception or gestation inside the womb, is where we can truly speak as well. And it's where, in my journey, when I healed my asthma and allergies about 11 years ago and really stepped into my own body and owning my own presence here on the planet, and being very deeply spiritually connected that way, I recognized that I could speak to the children that were in utero and support them from health perspectives and emotional perspectives, mental perspectives, and, you know, as their brain and nervous system are growing, but then also their spiritual perspectives. And I didn't realize that there was such a, you know, I think in our Western medicine world, or in our linear, logical, everyday world, we don't recognize that we can make these connections, and that we can speak to one another and share with one another our heart, our true sense, our true nature, our love. And so when I have spoken to babies in utero, meeting moms who were gestating and growing, infants, and fetuses is what we call it as they're growing, that they too have a sense they too have a knowingness. They too have an awareness that they're alive, that they're in this environment, they're in this body growing. They may not feel it the way we observe it from the outside, but from the inside, they have different sets of experiences. And many of their experiences are a relationship, and it's constant. And that relationship is with their body, it is with their amniotic fluid or the fluid around them. It is with the perceived darkness that they experience that isn't really true. They can see as well. They see images. They might see like a blind person sees sometimes, where you can see images and colors around their environment.
Yeah.
They even get to know their mom and their dad and other people in their family, depending on how the family relates or interrelates with them.
Yeah.
And then they also didn't know that maybe they were experiencing stressors or challenges, or they were experiencing, like you said about the dogs and the cats and domesticated animals, they may feel the stressors of, you know, their mother or the person that's gestating them to bring them forward. They don't know that they're experiencing those stressors. So those stressors impact their physical body to grow and develop. And so when I support a mom and a family and the child or the infant or the fetus inside gestating, what I do is approach them by honoring where they're at spiritually. And they may be in different spaces and places. They may have different demands or overwhelm that they didn't know that they were experiencing.
Yeah.
And so I help alert them or help them become aware of what it is they're experiencing through communicating to them. And a lot of times in my mind or in my experience, I experience English language communicating back and forth. And the reason why I presence it that way is so that I have something valuable to give feedback to the mom or the dad or others in the family. So then that adds value of the communication that they can understand.
Yeah.
I look forward to a day. I look forward to a day when we can all speak in heart language. Right. And it doesn't have anything to do with English or another language.
Right. That's a very good point. We're definitely massively at this tipping point of evolution of our planet. And of course, we've been held back with so much emotional and technological advancements, which we're obviously taking back now, picking up from the ethers or bringing up from our own cellular long-term memory, etc. I so want all parents to know, because there's so much ignorance that we're not told. I want parents, the parents aren't ignorant, the education from the authorities is ignorant, because there are so many fuckwits at the top of the world running my planet, running your planet, running our planet, that you're all fired. I fire every single one of you. Get lost. We need people like ASHELY stepping up and other beautiful people that can really bring the information to the parents like, hey guys, your minimal input is felt. You're loving, singing to the baby, rubbing the tummy, being gentle. Like, what else can you suggest, ASHELY, that both parents, family members can do to this growing, beautiful child in vitro?
But I think, which is so beautifully said that way, is a lot of time the challenges impact all of us, including the growing infant. And so when we have challenges, when we don't feel well, I mean, and emotionally, for example, when we emotionally don't feel well, our thoughts and feelings resonate and create literally sacred geometry shapes inside the amniotic fluid. So we can go back to Emoto's work, we can go back to other people, Greg Baden's work, Bruce Lipton's work, other people's work that shares with us literally our thoughts manifest form. And the form is these geometric shapes of the water. Well, think about it inside the uterus, growing fetus. It has amniotic fluid in there, and you're having a really bad day as a mom. Or you're experiencing a really bad day from dad, and you're receiving it from dad as the mom. No matter how the energy is transmitted, the mother embodies this negative emotion or negative thought pattern, and it impacts the cellular water construct inside the amniotic fluid. Now the baby's having a physical impact with the way the water is structured. And there is destruction in structured water when we're negative.
That
And,
is fantastic. Sorry to interrupt you, but this is too important just to like, I need to say something. Thank you for raising that point. It is absolutely, this is the kind of thing that I knew that you would deliver, Ashley Lee, because no one has probably thought too much about the impact of the cellular structure changing in the amniotic fluid, which is the fluid that surrounds the baby in the tummy in vitro. And you referenced to Dr. Emoto's work. So very briefly, for those of you that don't know who Dr. Emoto was, he's this beautiful man. I think he died, but he left a legacy of work that was so useful. He took 2 bottles of water and he stuck the word hate on one and the word love on the other. And then he got a load of students and they all shouted out, "You bastard, I hate you, you fucker." And really to put as much negative energy frequency into this bottle of water, which sounds cuckoo, right? Then he took the bottle of love and everyone said love and gentleness and sweetness and serenity. Then they took cells from the water droplets under microscopes. And oh my goodness, everything that was ugly, that was put into the water bottle that said hate, was the most disfigured cellular structure, water molecules. They took the cells, the water, drop of water under a microscope to look at the cellular structure, the molecular structure of the water itself. And it was absolutely stunningly beautiful, beautiful, perfect, sacred geometry or geometrics, patterns that make up, geometry are the building blocks of matter. And this work that this man left is such a legacy, isn't it? But for you to actually reference Dr. Emoto in that way, I think that is genius. And I think you're going to really make mothers, pregnant mothers, really think about, okay, it's even more important now that I recognize everything said to myself, said to me, said around me, watching negative nonsense or, it's going to affect my child. And it's so important. I want the dads to on board, all the mothers, partners, whatever they be, and all their beautiful guises. Children, come, connect, love, rub the belly, like if the mum lets you, because some mums are like, get away, stand over there and say nice things. It's so important. My goodness, thank you for that. You also mentioned 2 other legends, which we can't let go, because what my channel's about, like bringing information, bringing education, highlighting these brilliant people on our planet that are going to fill in parts of the puzzle in each of us. You mentioned Bruce Lipton. Love you, Bruce. Trying to get you on my channel. Bruce Lipton is one of the better known, probably the most well-known cell biologists in the world. And he's a kick in the pants. He's funny. He's so interesting. He's got tons of energy. I love him. He's a friend of our friend, Paul Luftenegger. Hi, Paul Luftenegger. I've got an interview with Paul on my channel. Paul sings with the angels. Paul makes angel music. I invite the viewers to go and look at Paul Luftenegger. But yeah, Bruce Lipton, amazing. And then Greg Braden. Hi, Greg. Greg is a brilliant scientist, geologist. These guys are fascinating, and they've all been part of the last 50 years of this creation in thought leadership, experiments, looking at metaphysics, physics, spirituality, and blending it all together. Brilliant. Well done, Ashley. You're rocking. You're cheese on toast, darling. Cheese on toast. All right. Can you now share how the best possible ways could be for once baby is born, bearing in mind you've dealt with very premature newborns? How do
may I take a moment
Yes.
and go back to really fulfilling your question about how can parents impact that? And they can do stuff that's really easy, like when they're having a bad emotional day and they're pregnant, and no matter what month or week of gestation they are, they can literally acknowledge their negative feelings or their partner's negative, whatever's going on, that they're embodying, that they feel, I feel sad, or I feel despondent, or I feel angry and pissed off, or whatever it is, right? What I want people to do and recognize when they're pregnant to know is that they can go, I'm human. I had a bad feeling. I had a seriously bad emotion. I know it impacted my body because I can feel it. I probably is very much impacting the amniotic fluid and the baby inside. So I want to take a moment. I want to pause. I want to let go of those emotions, knowing that I can, because I can have energy mastery with my emotions. And I can recognize that those emotions are just bringing forward in my experience for me to do something about it. Either make it better or correct it or address it, whatever it is. But I don't have to live buried in this emotion for days, weeks, hours, months, whatever it is. I don't have to live that way. And I can choose in this moment to masterfully breathe out or change or shift my emotion. I can put my loving hands on my belly and I can say, baby, it's okay. This is not about you. This is just about being human. And sometimes us humans have challenging moments. And you may have it when you grow up and you grow older. You may have them too. And I'm here to support you and help you, and to know that you can have energy mastery with your emotions too. And I really choose to bathe the amniotic fluid and my whole body with the love that I truly am. And it is something that's that simple that you just illustrated from what Emoto did, that we can do in any moment. He proved it. It can happen in a couple of minutes, even less, the more practiced we get. So I just wanted to support all the pregnant moms that they can choose to shift and to impact the health and the wealth and the growth of their baby and themselves through this pregnancy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so when they're born, and again, you've dealt with such premature little ones, share with us what you know these premature babies feel and are able to communicate.
You know, babies can communicate before conception. I hear lots of doulas, lots of massage therapists, lots of people who are spiritually connected throughout their day, and they hear the spirit of the child wanting to come in. And it's very fascinating. Most people, from what I understand, may or may not hear that, or may not experience that calling. Many siblings experience that calling. They tell their parents, my brother's coming, right? That's very common.
Yeah.
Or my sister's coming, or the twins are coming, or whatever. And we sometimes don't listen to that. And I invite everyone who's listening to us today to tune in, that that's an early warning, that that's sharing a spiritual knowing with you and an opportunity to engage in relating to that energy, that soul's energy. And so many parents are gestating and bringing forward children who have announced themselves in parents' dreams, in parents' waking dreams, in parents' everyday experiences, and even from other siblings or other family members. A grandmother might come in and say, you know, I know you're going to have a baby girl soon. And then they're like, what? So those kinds of things, those are opportunities for us to connect and relate to the oneness that we truly are, that we're all interconnected spiritually and energetically in all of these ways. And so in that process, the child, all through their lifespan, even upon conception and then gestation and then birth, and even birth in the premature babies, medically, we might have believed long ago and far away, since I started 32 years ago from today, that we believe that premature babies had an immature brain and nervous system, and that they couldn't hear us, or they couldn't understand us, or they couldn't know what was going on. And that is absolutely has never been the truth. They share with us in all sorts of sensory ways. They may be even so premature that their eyes are fused and they can't open their eyes yet until 24 weeks gestation. It's okay, they can still see. They see through their mind's eye. Our mind is not everything that we process. We process information through our heart, through every cell in our body. We process information in our energy fields and all the different levels of energy fields that we have, mental, emotional, spiritual, and others. And in those, we have the ability to connect even to the premature infant, even if they're in an environment like in a neonatal intensive care unit, where I have worked for 6 years out of my acumen. And in those 6 years, what I recognized is that they have the overt ability to communicate, and they have the more subtle abilities to communicate. Some of the overt ways that they communicate is they raise their heart rate very rapidly when they're stressed. They breathe rapidly. They may even decompensate, and their whole vital systems goes down. So that's why they're in Western medicine held in incubators, so that some of the noise and the sensory information is not so overwhelming to them. Because you think about it, in utero, your sound and the sound waves are muffled in the water. And so we may or may not recognize it. So many times when we're parents of premature infants, we want to go in there, or even healthcare providers, if the infant is in trouble medically, we'll get in there and kind of bother them and touch them and manipulate their body to help them survive and live through the experience. But we don't recognize, and it's time for all of us to awaken to the idea that we can even enter calmly. Even if their vital signs are dropping, we can enter calmly. We've proven it with twins, that when we put both twins, we used to have to, because of cooties and bacteria and pathogens, we'd separate the twins. Well, that's kind of silly. They were in utero together.
So yeah.
When we found we put them in the same incubator, they actually did better. So there are many centers around the US and around the world that are putting twins together, or triplets together in the same incubator, even if they're on ventilators and the ventilator comes out of one port and another port and another port. And what they do is they recognize that that bonding, disrupting that bonding impacts their survivability.
Absolutely. And that's all they've known. And to suddenly have the shock of, where's my other person? Where's the heartbeat beating next to me that I'm so used to, as well as my mother's that now is, yeah. I mean, it's such common sense. Like, to me in this moment, as you're sharing that analogy, that reality, but then to some medical side, they don't seem to be able to think, we've got this, oh, they're the gods. No, they're not the gods, and I am kind of having a little bit of a pop, because it's time that we stop looking with such, although they know better. No, they don't, not necessarily. Look at that, what you just described. Thinking it through, having common sense, taking a moment, not, oh, we're trying it this way, or it's like when they change the math system. Well, doing math this way this year, no, we're changing it this way. There's always someone sticking their oar in, that hasn't got any idea of the emotive, the emotional. That's where the feminine comes in, of course, because it's the females that were charged with birthing the human race. It's just amazing. Can you share, because I'm so excited for people to know this, what is a newborn infant doing if they're raising their hand, or you share?
So a lot of times when a newborn is overwhelmed or is engaging in a situation that is too stressful for them, a lot of times they will put up their hand. And they'll be as young as survivable premature infants as possible, as 22 weeks gestation about, which is very, very young, very, very small, under a kilo, a pound or so of weight. And they literally can hold up their very little hand and put their hand out to say, no more, I've had enough, I can't do it anymore. And when we do that, what happens is we may not be able to understand that. So when we go and we take our finger in there and we help them hold our finger, to recognize they're in an extrauterine, outside the uterus, when they're in an extrauterine environment, to help them reality orient them to that, and to say, we're going to help you. And so these are the ways that we're going to help you. Sometimes they don't feel good, but even when we address when it doesn't feel good in our minds and our hearts to them, they feel that frequency. And then they know that you're there to support them rather than to hurt them or to cause them harm. We're not intending to cause them harm. That's where I'm a registered nurse that's moved from that intensive care environment to another environment, helping to utilize our inner technologies of self-healing rather than using invasive techniques to support healing for all people. Mm-hmm. They put up their hands to say, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I can remember over the years you sharing me stories about little ones that came into your ICU that looked like there's absolutely no way this little one potentially has a chance, and they would just go, Ashley, right? Can you share some of the ways that you would gift love and hold space for these teeny tiny little bundles of joy and, you know, creation?
There's so many moments. There's moments when we all step into our true nature of love, let go of our fear, let go of you know, dying or having a bad event, or, you know, losing their ability to stay alive in front of you, can be very paralyzing for people to be confronted with. I recognized I'm not afraid of death. I experience leaving the body. I experience being in the body. I experience being out of the body. The fear of death doesn't impact me the same way. So in a lot of ways, it's somewhat easier, I guess you could say, for me to be present to the fact that a life under any circumstance can be augmented, optimized, and supported to continue living, if that's the choice or the soul's choice of the person. And so there's one instance a few years ago in the cardiovascular ICU where an infant had a struggle with a torn aorta. And it was from a diagnostic test that we did. Not all of the devices fit every size of infant. And this torn aorta was something that no one anticipated and no one wanted to happen. And so I was taking care of the baby, and I saw the torn aorta. I didn't know it was there. And I was very afraid to feed the baby and burp the baby, thinking that burping would cause the baby to have a rupture of this tear. And so I was told I still had to feed the baby, which was kind of a funny adventure with my healthcare providers and my other people that I was working with. And so I went to feed the baby, but I picked the baby up and I said, we did not mean, we, all healthcare providers that are involved in your care, did not mean to do this. We all take responsibility for this occurrence happening. We're very sorry that it did. And may I have the opportunity to support you in healing this in this moment? And I got a big yes from the baby and the universe above. So I literally put my hand over the baby's aorta, the area where the tear was. And in 30 seconds, I divinely got told, it's done, it's better, it's fixed. I'm like, it's done, it's better, it's fixed. What does that mean? And so I said, okay, we'll feed the baby. I'm still going to not burp you, you know, it's going to be okay. We'll figure this out. So then the team came in and said, we're going to do a CT scan tomorrow to check on this tear. I said, great. So the next day, the baby went to have the CT scan, and the tear was not there. It was not there at all. And the diagnostics showed that there was nothing wrong with the baby, and the baby could go home healthy without any cardiac defect whatsoever.
That's just incredible. And again, Ashley, what a gift to give. Now, you did a couple of things there. So there are a lot of people who, once they start to connect to their own spiritual selves and they start to meditate and they start to see, you know, maybe with their eyes closed, they start to see unconsciousness, you know, the purple and the pulsing and whatever it is that they're able to kind of feel, sense and know. A lot of people get carried away and they think that they have all these miraculous, you know, healing powers, when in actual fact, the person, the being, has their own ability to heal. And what we do is facilitate space, but we are blending the universal love frequency, which some people call God, you know, that this is what I believe, you know, that we're bringing them all together. So the way that you explain that, you apologize to the infant, you're honoring that this being in your hands may be premature and damaged, but this person is a being that has an ability to understand telepathically, emotionally, you know, sensually, and that you said, sorry, apologies, we all take responsibility. Can we support you in your healing? And look what happened. And no one's Joan of Arc in between that, you know, or Jesus or Mary.
No, and it's really beautiful, and that the infant it was so gracious to see how we can create a relationship with another person, whether they can talk to us or not. And then we can create a relationship where we can augment the self-healing together. And so I know that baby's energy, that baby's body helped remodel and shape that and close or heal it in whatever way, right? What if the sacred geometry of the aortic wall was torn because of a fracture of a device hitting it, where there was never any intention about it causing damage? And then what happened was when that got corrected, it got corrected because the infant knew that there was no harm being meant towards that infant. And so that infant didn't carry any negativity about its care providers, right? It let it go. It released all judgments, and it gave a level of forgiveness. And I gave forgiveness, and we gave forgiveness. There wasn't anybody that was on the team that wasn't wanting to support this infant's optimal outcome.
Yeah.
There wasn't anyone that was in disagreement with that.
Yeah.
And so when we bring all of those energies together to create a love state, I sense that that love state is more, in this way, miraculously or instantaneously supported and completed inside the physical body.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful. So I would love to come to one of our main topics now. And this is something that you've been sharing with me for absolutely ages. You've been talking about the golden children. And what I would love for you to do is share with our audience what you mean exactly, and all the ways that the golden child or children express themselves in whatever newborn, in vitro to fully grown. So I'm just going to let you teach us.
I got introduced to the concept called the golden children years ago, when I recognized that children and adults, everyone can bring in this frequency or this color or this energy pattern called golden energy. And I didn't realize it when I was first healing my own asthma and allergies about 12 years ago, and recognizing I got called internally. You know, we all hear this inner calling inside of ourselves. I don't think there's a human on this planet that hasn't experienced an inner calling of one sort or another. And in this inner calling, I was told, I said, when can we change the aura of the earth? And I knew that the aura of the earth was blue, and where we were very focused on what's happening inside our ability to speak our truth and say our truth. And that's sort of the blue energy of the earth. And I was focused on wanting to support healing that blue energy so that we can easily speak our truth, but then the aura of the earth turned clear. And then I was shared the way to bring the clearing to the earth so that we all are one, we all are connected, our hearts are never apart from one another, was to breathe the golden breath. And so I was shared to breathe my golden breath out to the whole entire world. So I would literally blow it and send it north and have it go around the earth and come back and hit me in the back of the head. And I'm going, that's awesome. And then I'd turn east and I'd do it east, and it'd go all the way around and go west, and then do it around the whole entire world. And I didn't recognize, I said, what is this golden energy? What does it mean? And what is it about? And what I recognized, it is an opportunity to recognize that we're all one. We're not separate from each other. We're not separate from the love that we are. We're not separate from the fear that we are. And as we learn and grow to relate with our energies, our physical energies, our emotional energies, our mental and spiritual energies, all of them, when we learn how to relate in a realm of oneness, with fear, with love, with everything else inside of it, when we learn how to do that supportively, then all of a sudden, our humanity begins to really change and shift and move into a realm of making decisions and creating solutions inside love versus fear. And when I was called then later, in a few years later, in some meditative journeys and different opportunities, I experienced in the inner calling that the golden children are coming. And what was meant by this idea about the golden children is that they come in knowing that they're not separate from themselves. They're not separate from the love that they are. They're not separate from their parents, even when the cord is cut. They're not separate from their fear. They're not separate from their mom's fear. They're not separate from anyone's fear. They're in all of it together. And so I said, wow. So as these children are born, many of us have been born that way. Many of us, when we wake up to our spiritual connection to ourselves and our lives, we wake up knowing that this is true about all of us, that we have a true nature of love that exists in all of us, even if we have a fearful moment or a fearful time or a fearful, hateful life or whatever it is. We recognize that deep down inside of us, in the core of us, is this golden energy, is this energy of oneness. And I recognize that as these kids are born, as a pediatric energy healer, as a pediatric nurse, as a pediatric healer, what I realized was to support these children in really expressing their oneness, their awareness that they're not separate from anyone else or anything else. Mm-hmm. And that when we position that perspective in our daily lives, every day and every moment with everything, we then reposition how we work with ourselves, each other, and our life circumstances. Mm-hmm. And now I'm on a journey with you and all of our other friends to determine how, or to structure how that can be laid out. And so my inner calling this last few years is to create energy mastery schools where we learn how to master our energy, preconception, conception, gestation, birth, childhood, and then into young adulthood, and then become that version of ourselves that understands how to master the challenges and the good stuff in our lives so that we can support our whole planet shifting and changing out of fear.
Right. You know, as you and I know, there are many, many different kinds of centers, children's centers, healing centers. This idea that you're sharing is an old idea. And I'm seeing people that, you know, seem to think, oh, they've just thought of it. Well, of course they haven't. It's just their age range that they're in. And God love them, you know, for getting all excited. And, you know, because we definitely do need to be bringing totally our attention on, you know, the education and the things that have been lacking. But there are so many great people who have been dedicated their entire lives to supporting the children, supporting how they learn, their emotional support, and helping them become really strong adults and learning things that are actually useful, as opposed to the old 200-year-old dead and dying education system. So ASHELY and I were actually involved. I don't really want to say his name, but I won't say his name, but one of the most famous men on the planet, really, if you think about it, one of the best known names, actually a really super nice guy, not one of the, you know, common billionaire types that we think, where are you going to put your money, mate? You're going to help? You're going to build a school or 75,000 or whatever? This person is involved in the education system and is dedicated to rewriting the curriculum, because he, at his level, you know, has noticed, like many of us have, long years and years ago, that the education system does not work. It is dead, and it is being changed. It will be changed, and any of the old, you know, ways, the old guard, you're done, donezo, bye. You know, it's been happening. So I wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to share that years and years ago, when I had my clinic at Harley Street in London, I was working with a lovely Indian doctor. She was a brilliant scientist, and she was in charge of writing the global curriculum, which pretty much starts as like Saudi Arabia, India, or the other way round, and then the rest of the world and Europe, and then America. It was something like that. I was so excited, actually. I figured, I can influence her in a good way. She'd come for me for therapy and for spiritual mentoring. And I would say to her, this doesn't work out, because of long-term nursery nurse, children's nanny, as you know, right? It's been my whole life. Part of my path is this subject, you know, the children, health, growing into healthy adults, being metaphysical, spiritual, emotionally healthy, learning things in life that are useful, getting out of the system that was put in front of us. It doesn't work. But I realized that even though I have my hands on the key person in the entire world, I shit you not, this is the absolute truth, she couldn't be influenced. She had no power, is what I really mean. She could only do as she was told. There was expectations, meaning she wasn't allowed to put anything of her PhD, any individual thinking into what she knew, you know, would help, would benefit, top down with the children around the world. So yeah, there's been a lot of people trying to influence with children's centers. Let's talk about your network. Let's talk about your Kids Consciousness Network.
I have centerforconsciouskids.com, and I also have another nonprofit organization called centerforconsciousawareness.org. And I'm building the centerforconsciousawareness.org for adults and specifically influencers to support them in healing their victim consciousness inside their lives, so that as they release the fear, the generalized fear that they may or may not know that they have in their lives, that's influencing their influencees. And our idea is to support the influencers so that they're really clear with their true nature of love. They're clear when they're experiencing challenges or conflicts. They're clear on how to clear them and have a tool belt to be able to do that. And then to develop that inside their own giftedness and their own acumen that is out to give to the world, so that when they can reframe what they've learned with us to manage their energy, so that they can then support their influencees to manage their energy as well. And we create this ripple effect across the planet on releasing victim, victimizer, victim perpetrator sorts of consciousness that impact us in our everyday world. And so inside of that, as we grow, what I want to do is put centerforconsciouskids.com inside there, so that there's a philanthropy arm to start to grow this over a 12,000 year business plan, so that humanity is secured in supporting through ongoing legacy growth and expansion to heal victim consciousness for a very long time, so that we learn over generations and epochs of time how to manage our energy in a very fruitful, productive, supportive, loving, moral, ethical way for each one of us individually and collectively. And so inside Center for Conscious Kids, I interview and support other practitioners that are supporting children across the globe and across the world, to helping them learn how to support themselves in conscious choice versus feeling subjugated, oppressed, and other things that we've been experiencing over the last at least 100 to 200 years of direct generational entrainment techniques that have been plaguing our world.
Excellent. Yeah, entrainment techniques. Wow, this is fabulous. There's such a lot here, so many different subjects that we've lightly touched upon, so much of a plethora of work that you have dedicated and devoted yourself to in the healing and the education of the inner child, the living child, the child in vitro, the adult's child. So much work, so many lives that you've touched and helped aid in the survival of our premature babies. And unfortunately, recently, we're in this apparent global health crisis. And even though you were being tested twice a week, at least, for your role as a senior RN in the ICU, you were forced to leave your nursing shoes behind in that very sacred space, in that crisis emergency room. because you didn't want to take medicine in your arm that you didn't know enough about, because you're a very intelligent woman and wanted to make a decision for yourself. And it just amazes me that they did that to you. And it's such a horrible, horrific, bad, wrong decision. So letting people know that you have all this skill, that you're able to consult. If people can reach out to you, you can consult with people, parents to be on so many beautiful areas, you know.
I want to share with something really quick about leaving healthcare in September 30th in 2021, was that I recognized in the last 2 weeks of working in the ICU with my colleagues, and all of my colleagues, respiratory therapists, nurses, doctors, and the like. I can tell you that this process of this happening and this nefarious way of forcing people to receive medical care that is not something that people may want. And lots of people know lots of narratives, but I want to share one narrative that you may be unaware of and that most people may be unaware of. I recognize, because I have the ability to ask infinite knowledge, infinite universe of information when I let go of my attachments to the outcome of what the answer is. And I can tell you that I recognize that at least 80% of my colleagues did not want to have the vaccination also, and that they felt forced, and that they needed to stay in that profession because that's what they had invested in, that's what they're working for, they're raising families. They have all these other physical constructs that they have to continue to do to keep a job and to do those sorts of things, or to maintain the career they thought that was really important to them. And so I can tell you that most people did not want to take the jab, under any circumstance. And what I decided to do was, I knew that I could clear those negative energies. I knew that I could clear all those things from my body. But not everybody knows how to clear or self-heal yet. And so it's our position right now to support the world, to announce to the world that self-healing is here and it can be done. And that these people were very sad for me to leave. They were very distraught themselves. They knew the moral and ethical issue from the other end, not from the cootie phobia fear end about a virus, when we're busy testing for 14 other very deadly viruses, and yet we have no vaccine. We have no care about those, but we do about this one, which is all strange to all of us. So I just wanted to share with you wholeheartedly that there are many of my colleagues that never wanted this to happen to them or their bodies.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of support to give to the world, and I know we can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And starting again, you know, with information to pass to parents, how to talk to your child in vitro, how to be loving, how to bring the little ones, also the older siblings of the babies in vitro, to get them connected and bring that family unit into harmonious alignment despite all the stress and everything that's happening out there. So many ways that we can be talking to ourselves and remembering that each individual child in the tummy is covered or living in, breathing in this amniotic fluid that you change with your very words. Remember the 2 water bottles, one said love and one said hate. This is a very beautiful way to illustrate again how powerful we are as humans. And it's all true and it's all real. And there's nothing, no one can say against it because it's already been proven. So it's brilliant. Ashley, we could speak for 47 years nonstop. There are so many subjects. I think it's likely that your details are going to be the maximum I've ever put in any broadcast I've done thus far. But I'm going to make sure that I've got all the links for Conscious Kids Network, Center for Conscious Awareness, LEAP, your meditation programs, which if people have never been introduced to meditation before, this girl right here, where are you? That way. Are you that way?
I'm everywhere.
The woman in the screen, the omnipresence of Ashley Lee. There's a lot here that you guys, we welcome you to go through her links and have a look and see where she can be of service to you, because she's definitely got a whole body of work out there to help us with our self-healing those of our families. Ashley, thank you so much. Do
Thank
you have
you.
any final words for our audience?
I invite everyone to be conscious with their unconscious thoughts and feelings, that we can own it and go, I'm unconscious. And I choose in this moment to become conscious with what I was feeling I was unconscious about. And inside of that, and when we become conscious, we could say I was in fear, or I was in conflict, or I was in challenge, and that we do have the capacity to change those conflicts in the moment so that they don't have to brood or breed or develop conditions, illnesses, and problems inside of our lives, but that we can choose in the moment to change, being fresh and new each and every moment.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Ashley, that was great. And I just want to say to you guys out there, if any of you would want to see Ashley back, you're welcome to send in questions. Don't put them in the live chat, please. Put them in the comment section. If we have enough of support for the information and knowledge that Ashley has, I'll be more than happy to invite her back to give you guys more support out there in the way that you need it. Thank you, Ashley Lee. All right, guys, sending you lots of love, and I'll see you soon.
And others.